talk to animals. My name is Shannon, and I am an animal sensitive and intuitive with animal love languages. And yes, we're getting to you. This is my ever-present 22-year-old feathery sidekick, Pearl Pets, and he never misses an episode. You know what? I will never forget my first experience connecting with animals on an intuitive level. My very first thought was actually, everyone can do this. And we can. Animal communication taps into the universal language of all species. This is a language that dives deeper than spoken words, into the realm of the senses, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting and smelling, sensing, and knowing. The universal language of all species shows up most clearly in our survival instincts. How do we find breakfast without becoming breakfast? We stay tuned into each moment, right as it is happening. But that is not all that talking to animals is good for. We can use it to tune into the animals in our own lives, our pets. We can connect to the wildlife we share space with, and we can uncover hidden gems of truth about ourselves and how we are connected to our world. Animal communication is always happening, but until we tune in, we won't know it or be able to participate. In this series, I talk with amazing people who have learned how to speak this universal language of all species. Learn from them, discover new abilities you didn't know you had, and begin talking to animals today. And trust us, they will talk back, won't they? And I am so delighted to have Meg from Modern Day Dolittle here with us today. Meg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Are you talking to him?
I'm so entertained by this.
I'm
just enjoying. I try not to giggle to your intro, but I think it was fabulous.
He's like my little parrot penguin, aren't you? Are you like a parrot penguin in a tuxedo? Underdressed. We may be underdressed compared to you. Okay.
He's your manager. He's got to keep things going. He's like, let's go, Mom, let's go.
Apparently I need a lot of managing.
He might be a bit of a micromanager though.
Micro on every level, right? Micro on every level. Yeah, I know. Before we started recording, I was telling Miss Meg that you discovered the shower and how resonant your voice sounds in it this morning, didn't you? Okay, it's just too much cuteness. We're just people are gonna be like, look into the crystal. They're all just gonna be fainting from cuteness.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna talk to Miss Meg now. Okay. So, question number one, which I know is a question that everybody kind of comes into this space with, is how did you know that talking to animals was even a thing, like that it was possible?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to join you on your platform. It's a pleasure, and it's always an experience. I love education and awareness, so it's right up my alley. So thank you again. How did I know? I didn't know. I think that's the interesting part is I just didn't know. It was an awareness that hadn't come from my subconscious into my conscious mind, and I spent a long time loving animals and working alongside animals, but it was truly a career change when I started doing animal communication. And I'd spent several previous lifetimes in this body working with animals and working alongside animals and in a corporate career even. But then it was one day that I just realized that I need to find something that was more fulfilling. So I was always going to the psychic mediums, the seers, the knowers, the ones with all the information. And I asked them, I said, I'm not fulfilled with my career. I need to know what I should be doing. Like, I need to know how to be happy. I mean, I literally went with a happiness question, and they said, well, you know, you're working in the realm of animals, because I worked for consumer packaged goods brands, but it was in the vein of like animals and pets and things like that. But it was like, I was kind of close, but I wasn't that close. So they said, you need to get going with your animal communication work. And I was like, oh, I already do that. I was like, I already do that, because marketing communications with animals or pet brands to me was saying the same thing. It was synonymous. So I went away, still not enjoying, my career. I went back. At the time I owned my own firm. So I was bringing in my own animal related clients, but I was still doing marketing and PR for them. I was still doing communication for them. So I went back and I said, that reading was wonderful, but there's just this one thing, like this kind of big thing about my career. And I'm like, I'm really not happy. And she said, I don't think you understand what animal communication is. And I said, well, I guess I don't, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure I do. I'm pretty sure I do it. And we talked and I explained, and she started laughing. And she's like, oh, you come see us, but you're pretty tapped in yourself. I said, oh, I thought I've always been okay with animals. I mean, but they said, well, you're intuitive with them. And I thought, oh, wow. Like, isn't that amazing? And she said, well, it's time to get going because there's a lot of people and animals that need your help. I thought, whoa. That's a far cry from what I'm doing day to day now. And I built my own business. I had a career in, working corporate. I went to school for it. And they're asking me to switch gears. And so she really almost had to sell it to me. She goes, there's a woman, Sedona, Arizona. You can jump in with her. She could be like a mentor, a coach. Think about it. So she really had to sell it to me. So I honestly didn't know I was doing it I was just following my breadcrumbs. And there was a little tinge in me that was like, I've always been very curious. So I just followed it. And, the rest is kind of history, because once her and I got going, I worked with Maya Kincaid out of Sedona. And, I realized that my biggest setback was going to be my biggest hurdle would be finding the confidence to do it, to share my soul with the world and say, I'm an intuitive animal communicator. And so to say, when I knew, it wasn't until I literally got thrown into the frying pan and I was on Zoom like I am with you now. And it was like, just, what are you picking up from this cat? And I was like, oh, and I'm pretty forthcoming. Like, I'll share and things like that. I thought, what have I got to lose? So I started sharing, and then there was ladies on the other end, and they're like, Meg, we have to ask, how long have you been, or how many years have you been doing this for? And I was like, me? Like, you're my first one. You're my first client. I wasn't even a real client. I was just practicing. Right. And I thought, oh, there's something to this. I'm onto something here. And it came so innately. And I spent less energy doing that than I had working my butt off to find happiness in a career that wasn't fulfilling me. And so, again, I say the rest is history. Like, I just, I'm happy I got on it when I did. Nice. It would have been nice if I got onto it sooner, but it is what it is. I know the timing is divine. I know it's perfectly orchestrated. I know me coming into this, it's like riding a bike. So I've catapulted myself forward with quantum leaps of development and evolution. I've got a long way to go. I wouldn't say I'm like anyone's guru at all. But yeah, that's kind of when I knew, which is so not conventional. And people think, really? Like, aren't you just always knowing it? But no, oh God, that was my next big thing was, how some people, it's dormant inside of us. Like, we're all hardwired to communicate with other species, including other people, animals, trees, plants. But how often are we just like unaware? Like, we're also dormant and sleepy. And so my kind of waking up wasn't just waking up to the animals. It was to this idea of all new levels of consciousness and things like that. So there's my long-winded story.
I love it. I've got this enormous like muscle ache grin on my face. I'm just like so happy because I feel like these are the most fulfilling conversations to have. And I mean, what better to talk about? Sure, we could chit chat about movies and music and all of that, and that's great. But I mean, this is like what you just said, a whole deeper layer and level of what it even means to be alive. And
yeah,
I mean, it makes me laugh that when you said that people think, you're just kind of dialed in all the time. I mean, didn't they make a movie about that with Mel Gibson where like, it's really, I'm totally dating myself, but where he could like hear, I think he could hear the thoughts of all women was what it was. I mean, and I think, people that haven't ever had this experience do feel like, you're just going to walk around and you're suddenly like just hearing all of the animals' thoughts. And it's like, no, they're, it's like my teacher, Danielle McKinnon, talks about fine tuning your radio frequency, and
yeah,
I've also studied for quite a number of years with Sonia Choquette, who's an intuitive coach. And, you know, what she talks a lot about the radio frequency too, and how sometimes our first experiences are so subtle. And I love that you just shared that, because it was kind of like you didn't even know that when your mentors were telling you about animal communication, it didn't mean marketing communication. I have a marketing background too. I totally get it. You know, it's like that is communication, but it's like a surface level. It's like the choppy wave, you know, you've got going down deeper. It's a complete. So of course, the next question is, what was it like the first time you really realized that you were talking with an animal? And I mean, I know even, you know, a few months into this now, this journey, I'm still like, you know, having trouble putting it into words. What does it feel like to talk to an animal?
Well, first of all, I have to say that Danielle and Sonia are wonderful. So it's amazing that you have them kind of in your toolkit of people to draw from. And yeah, I mean, there was never an aha moment. There have been aha moments, however, because I'm always blowing myself away. I'm not talking about in terms of what I'm getting. Well, what I'm getting, yes, but not in terms of my ability or anything like that. But I'm blown away by the animals. I'm blown away by it's not one moment, it's multiple moments in time that make up a whole experience. And like I said, I'm still growing, I'm still evolving, and I love that. And I love the different ways and the subtleties that they bring to me, the information and the ways I can't really always expect how I'm going to receive. And that surrendering piece is really important. So you don't have those expectations. Also, oh, my radio just decided to turn off. Okay. Yeah. So it's like a lot of, isn't that funny how all of a sudden
Speaking of radio frequencies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I wanted to just speak to that very quickly when you said the sense of frequencies and us being highly sensitive individuals and incredibly empathic, is that our frequency is changing all the time. So there will be times when my peers, my co-communicators in my workshops will say to me, oh, I'm blocked right now. I'm like, first of all, you have to get that out of your vocabulary. But two, our frequencies are always changing. And sometimes you have to take 2 steps forward to take that 2 steps back to take that 10-step quantum leap forward. So there are moments of plateau, and to not get frustrated with ourselves. So I totally forgot what your question was, Shannon.
I think you kind of answered it, but you know, I wish the animals could, well, I guess they can in a way, kind of tell us what it's like for them to the moment that they realize that a human being is listening to them. But on our side, you know, just the first time I realized I was having an actual conversation with an animal, and kind of what was that like for you, you know?
Well, I'm a very earthbound intuitive animal communicator. So it really just feels like everyday thought to me, almost to the point where it's hard for me to distinguish. And I have my annual birth chart reading with my astrologer, and she said, that's why. She's like pointed out all the spots in my natal chart. And she said, yeah, so you're going to almost have a hard time understanding when other people say that they have these like aha moments and things like that. And I think for me, it's just a moving experience of emotions, knowing that what's coming through, but it's also when the human animal relationship. So for me, it's the human validating and giving me extra insights, or them having a breakthrough on their own. That's when I know that's my sense of accomplishment, is that I've helped move this relationship in the right direction. Or if it's an animal I'm working with on the other side, again, it's still a relationship, but usually it's that human's grief that I'm helping them work through. And I can almost feel a dissolution of blocks underneath them dissolve, so that they can move forward in life a little bit more seamlessly with a little bit more ease and grace. And so that's those are kind of my markers of success, and I'm doing this, and it truly is, it's worthy of writing books. So I know you're a writer, Shannon. So I think that's like the beauty of synthesizing our knowledge and our learnings, and That's why I have my Instagram page, which used to be more like a journal for me. If you go deep into it's such a journaling. And so any of the communicators who come through my workshop, I'm always about journaling, reflecting, synthesizing the information, and reflecting on it, because it can be such a whirlwind experience of like, oh, I'm learning this concept and then this concept. And I didn't read books. I don't think I've read a whole book on any one person's topic of animal communication. I will get inspired. I'll go to a particular person. I have a couple of Danielle's books. Sorry, Danielle, I haven't read them completely. Forgive me. but I don't learn that way. I learn from the animals. I want to be a blank slate. I don't want to be studying, because that's when I invite too much of, the preconceived notions, the knowledge, the core beliefs. I invite that in. I'd rather talk about something in brass tacks, like I don't even know it. Like talk about a horse and talk about its feet and its butt and its, leg, and just describe the pieces of the animal versus knowing like, oh man, I still won't even use the words because I won't use them properly. But when I work with my, my horse clients, it's so raw. And that's what I love. The beauty of animal communication is I don't want people reading books too much, not too much books. I mean, if you feel intrigued, absolutely. But I always say like, just raw, blank slate, just give me that, that raw message or data or anything like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it really feels to me as I'm listening to you talk, there is that mental block and thinking about, I actually received it as a download in meditation. I heard the words, "You are an animal sensitive." And I thought, after years and years of hiring communicators to talk to somebody who's screaming in my right eardrum right now. And I thought, well, that sounds lovely. I have no idea what that is. I would have never dreamed that it would be possible for me. And to have it was my mind that was it was like a gatekeeper. It was just saying, no, that's not something that is done. And once, I was able to kind of change away from that frequency, I realized, this is something that should feel natural. We may be a human, but we're also a human animal. We have a species name like every other. We once belonged to the greater food chain of life. We once didn't really have an option to get, lost in these are our little pets now, right? And to get lost in that world of mentalization to the point where we no longer remember what it's like to walk up to a tree or a parrot or a dog or a horse and just have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And that when you talk about the frequency, like the food we eat changes our frequency, the air we breathe, like we can change our frequency all the time. So yeah, we can create so-called blocks. I don't like that mental game of what it conjures up, because what could be just a sliver or a moment in time, you can make it into a week-long, month-long, year-long issue when it's really not. And I also believe that like attracts like. So when you talk about, Shannon, going to other communicators to assist you. I did the same thing with psychics and mediums. I was always going to them, but like attracts like. So I say to my clients is that, you're pretty intuitive. We all are. So it's kind of like, I could say that to every single one, but when I'm validating things that they know to be true, I can hear it in them. They're like, oh yeah. Oh, I was thinking that. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, so that momentum, it's really inspiring for them too. And sometimes they turn around and they're like, hey, like I want to, jump on board with you. And I'd like to kind of work with you. I had to actually get pushed into that. I'll be honest. I didn't want to be that person, thinking I was educating or teaching. So I really had to reframe it. I had to really reframe it as like helping people remember their intuitive abilities. I'm not their teacher. I'm not helping them learn. It's inside them. It's just below the surface. And so I'm helping them bubble it up.
I love it. I've always been so connected to the model, if you will, and not in love with that word, but nothing else is coming to mind, of the mentor and the mentee. It's just, we all have these abilities, but some of us have had life experiences that have fostered them to a greater degree. And, and there have been times I have to say with my own animals where I have felt like there has been maybe a crisis or something going on to where I felt so close to it or so emotionally compromised by something or maybe a decision I had to make where I wanted to be able to turn to another communicator and say, could you read my animal? Could you read my
absolutely.
animal? And that's another, I mean, I love the idea of just bringing people together, fellow communicators, because we really all are. Just some of us are aware of it and some of us are not, which of course is what this series is about as well. I mean, to have my very first experience with talking to an animal and think everybody can do this. I mean, I wasn't even just like you with your story about, this is my first practice. It's not even my first client. For me, it was the same way. I was just doing a little free thing I found on YouTube because I was curious about what animal sensitive meant. And I thought, well, I'm going to go check this out, and I'm thinking, why did it take me 5 decades to remember this, that I can do this? I think I know, I feel it in my gut that we can all do this. And it feels like I love what you said earlier about, this is quantum leap forward. This is, everything, the timing was perfect for when the intersection of kind of your awakening and the transition in your career, and it was kind of like a perfect storm sort of situation. I feel like, we have this very extreme dichotomy in our world right now where we have our precious pets that we, really can't live without. And we go to some kind of an interesting and not always my favorite extremes where, dressing our pets up and we take them to dog cafes and cat cafes and do those sorts of things. And yet we're kind of raising our planet. I mean, we're kind of like destroying all of the natural areas that we seek out when we have any free time, when we want to recharge, when we want to reconnect, when we have those cravings. And it's like remembering that we are part of all life, remembering that we can communicate with one another regardless of species, feels like maybe the last option that hasn't been explored for how to save our world. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it just comes right from my soul. We need to reconnect. We need to rejoin.
You get it. Yeah, you get it.
Remember who we truly are. And often having, it's not that I think that everyone that's going to watch you today and listen to your experiences and your words, or maybe even listen to my story, is going to want to go and hang a shingle out and start, practicing as a professional animal. I mean, I truly believe we all have that ability. I just think some of us are called to be more public in this and for reasons of our own. It's just like some of us are called to, we want to work with numbers, we want to work with music, we want to work with animals, and that's absolutely fine. We're all needed. But I want everyone who watches these series and our interview today and to know that this is possible. Now it's an option of, do you want to explore it a little further? And that leads me surprisingly smoothly into my next question, which is, what advice would you have? You just mentioned your workshops. I adore. What's your Instagram? It's Modern Day Dolittle, just Instagram.com, Modern Day Dolittle. I follow you. I will put it in the show notes, but
it's Modern Day _Dolittle, Dolittle with 1 O. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So, but you also mentioned you have courses, you have, what sounds I now want to enroll. I guess I'm a little bit more of a student than I realized, but I would love to hear what advice you would have for somebody, because it sounds like you do run into people who are like, okay, so what do I do? Where do I start? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? What do I do?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so much you've said that I want to unpack, but I'll go to your question. Is I want to say, first of all, it's never too late. So you and I even say, like, why haven't I been doing this sooner? And I always say it's divinely timed. You're being called into action. It truly is some parts of it, like part of our blueprint or path. That's why I say we've forgotten and we're just remembering, because before we incarnated into these vessels, we made a blueprint of the things that we would aspire to do in this lifetime. But very much humanity is at a point where everything's shifting. right? We need to rise. We need to raise our level of consciousness, and we need to do that collectively. So now people more than ever are coming out of the woodwork. So if you're watching this, I want you to know it's not too late. Okay. And so I'm going to use myself as a quick example, is that my career in e-commerce, I was actually put into a role of being a spokesperson for the brand. And I was on TV and I was shopped across the country, and I never signed up for that PS. I literally was just like, PR, it's kind of synonymous with potentially being a spokesperson, but to that caliber was quite a bit. I'll be honest, I was sick to my stomach before and after every segment I did, and I did over 30. And at the time I thought, what? And like, first of all, I'm really loving this job. Second of all, and I'm a spokesperson, like this, and I'm putting my body and stuff through this like visceral reaction of wanting to like vomit. Anyways, fast forward, stepping into animal communication. I don't know if you remember when the Robert Downey Jr. Dolittle movie just came out last year. It was the doorway opening and the angels coming out going, this is what we set you up for. Get going, get on camera. Because at that time I had lots of contacts in media. I had tons of producers' emails. It was just a matter of me wanting to step out, almost feeling naked and exposed and being like, because I could talk about e-commerce till I was blue in the face, but this was a point of talking about myself and saying I was intuitive and, and right. It was very, very uncomfortable, but it was a job I knew I needed to do. Hindsight was 2020. So if anyone's watching, I want them to know that the building blocks are setting you up. You finding this is synchronistic. You're following your breadcrumbs. If you want to follow them further, great. You might enroll with me, or you might pick up a book, or you might. The point is, this is part of a process. You might say, no, now is not my time, but we're just planting seeds. I do believe in that. My other piece of advice, oh gosh, I have so much. It would be to follow your imagination in everyday life. Imagination to me is synonymous with intuition. So daydream, let your mind go there. Follow it a little bit, see if it's right. It could be the simplest thing of like, this is my path home. At this set of lights, I turn right, but today I'm being told to turn left. I don't know why. I'm just going to follow it. And you're going to avoid, construction, potholes that would destroy your car, maybe an accident, so on and so forth. But intuition is intuition. So animal communication is going to open you up to the breadth and depth of intuition for all life, for all of you. And it's such a journey of self. Your personal growth inspired by the animals is going to take you to new levels and new layers. I promise you. So it's not too late. Start imagining, start trusting your intuition a little bit, see where it takes you. And yeah, if you feel guided, then I never thought I'd be the person saying like, yeah, join my workshop. Cause I always was like, not me. No. But I've built a community, and we've got about 45 people that are my co-communicators, and they've gone through foundations to animal communication with me. And some of them have gone on to level 2, others level 3 and I can't even they keep wanting it. And I'm like, they look at me like, now build it. And they're my inspiration. And that's what I want. I don't want to be gauged by the number of followers I have, but the number of them that become animal communicators or leaders. And they don't even have to be professional. They don't have to be professional. They can be doing it low key. They can be, coming out into the world like the way I am. But we need more. We certainly need more of that. And that's, yeah.
Yeah, when you consider the ratio of, the number of companion animals in this country, just in North America, and country, I guess continent would be more accurate. But when we're talking about Canada and USA, and I look at the statistics, and I think, the number of animal communicators that are, out there publicly and sharing that they do this is really a very small ratio compared to the number of animals that would love to communicate. And I have met fellow students and fellow communicators who, they want to develop these skills within themselves and awaken their intuition because they are passionate about a certain charity that they're working with, an animal rescue that they're working with. Maybe they take in a rescued or abused animals, and they need new avenues to pursue to try to make those connections and foster trust with an animal that's really maybe not sure that, and it feels like that's, it's kind of walking up to a fellow being and just saying, hi, I want to get to know you. That's very different than most of the training models and the behavior models that we have, and even the veterinary models. It's has potential where maybe nothing else will. And some people, a lot of people come into it because they're grieving. If you've lost a pet, or you're in the process of helping a pet transition, that's another. For me, my first experience was a facilitated communication when I hired an animal communicator. And because before that, I had absolutely no frame of reference for what that even meant. And I think, like you just said, the kind of the domino effect, if you will, or the timing of it all, if I hadn't had those early experiences, even believing it as I did at that time, that I absolutely, I love hiring people. I love, I'm a constant student, definitely never see myself as a teacher, but if I hadn't been willing to become a student, I would have never opened myself to even having that experience. And and that was years. I mean, it was many, many years before I ever got this download, as I call it, just these words, you are an animal sensitive. And I was like, cool. I have no idea what that is. I just thought it meant I was sensitive to animals, which I am. I've always been surrounded by animals, and I love animals. But this is, it's a dream come true, just in the sense of learning what it means to be more fully human. Learning about an aspect of myself that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
So many of us can go our whole lives, and we're still a mystery to ourselves in so many ways. And and I loved what you said about how the animals are your greatest inspiration, because I too have experienced how the wisdom and the messages, and it so often the way that that it's coming from the animal is it's a total surprise, but it makes perfect sense, and it lands in an area that's nowhere near a conscious mind. It's in the heart, it's in the gut, it's in the feeling, it's the sensing, the knowing. I'll never forget the day that I was talking with a cat, and my teacher had talked about how you could smell, they can communicate through smelling and tasting, and this cat he gave me the smell of a dirty sock, and I was like, I wasn't expecting that. But the message was, my owner is traveling, and he wanted to know what to do to help the cat feel more comfortable. And the message was, I would like to sleep with one of my owner's dirty socks. By the way, I don't like the word owner at all, but it just popped out. But I want the comfort of my person's smell. So some of the most fun that you'll ever have in your life is to just chat with an animal. And that, again, I'm kind of surprising myself here, so smoothly segues into, I would like the folks that are listening and watching to know how they reach you, how they sign up for your programs, how they can start to play with you and tap into their intuition and their creativity and their imagination. And
I love that.
Their first animal communication.
Okay. Yeah, this is so exciting. Again, there's so many things you've said. I'm like, I almost should be taking notes so I can respond to everything, but that's okay. I know we've got to keep things concise, but so I do a variety of workshops, and they've kind of grown and evolved over time. And I'm always ideating new things, but there's relationship-based, the human-animal relationship-based workshops that I do. So there is a workshop called Healing Hearts, which is focused around pet loss and the other side, and how we work through grief. And it's quite a powerful session because we end it with Reiki at the end. And then there's ones for animals that are here with us now. And there's literally one called Animals Here and Now, which is the lessons that they're teaching us and the wonderful triggers that they offer to us for teachable moments, because they always do. And if you're frustrated, it's not always roses and butterflies that they teach us. It's really, it can be hard. And then there's one called My Aging Companion, for working with senior ailing animals. And Yeah, that one's pretty impactful too. But then if you really want to join, you say about play, if you want to join my intuitive playground, you can join my first workshop. I have a series of workshops in animal communication, but it starts with foundations to animal communication. It's a 3-hour workshop, and it really sinks your teeth into what you need to know. And I do eventually throw you into the frying pan in that 3 hours, and you do try your hand at communicating with a couple animals, because it wouldn't be animal communication if you didn't at least dabble a little bit, right? So so that one's really fun. And then once you've done foundations with me, you're in my community. So you get invited to a private Facebook group, and then you get invited to meetups where we practice all together as a group. Like I said, we've got 45 people in the community right now. I'll tell you, none of my programs are big classes. It's always 6 or less. Okay. So I'm not talking about the relationship-based workshops, which are more public facing for those that are interested in developing their relationships with their animals, but they're not kind of ready to dabble in the animal communication program. The program, it's literally on Zoom like we are here, 6 people plus me, and then we set to work. So level 1 and level 2, I introduce you to the breadth and depth of species. So if there's, elephants, tigers, lions, raccoons, rats, you name it. We do work with parrots. We work with crows, anything. And if you have a special request, I'll do my best to see what I have in my Rolodex, and then we'll pull it out and we'll practice. But it's really fun, and it's really about community. So I want everyone to have a voice, because that's what's important. And I don't know what else to say. It's a good time. And so even if you just want to do foundations with me, you don't want to do level 1, 2, or go on, you're still in that community with me. Like, I've got you. And so if you can come out, like, the meetups are free, the Facebook group, it's complimentary. It's just, I want to build this out, and I really want more people. I want animal communication to be as common a career or profession as an accountant. That's what I want for the future. Where you're talking about the ratio of animals to communicators. And I want more communicators to use their voice in a way. I'm not saying if everyone needs to go and do interviews with Shannon, but just the fact that, Shannon, you're using your voice. I'm like, rah, 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 yes, yes, yes. Because where you have a platform and you're so gracious, and I'm so humbled that you say, hey, Meg, you want to be on my, I'm like, oh my God, yes. Like, I love it. I love it. I love having these conversations. Like I said, I could have taken this a million ways, but blah, 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 backtrack. So how you can reach me is through moderndaydolittle.com, which is my website. Dolittle is always with 1 O. If you have a typo in my email, if you put 2 O's, it's not going to get to my inbox, unfortunately. All the workshops you can find through moderndaydolittle.com. There's a tab that says workshops. It's all laid out nicely there. You can ask questions. I'm always accessible. I am more accessible via email than I am through Instagram or Facebook, though there's tons of educational resources, add value resources that I post. I'm a PR person, I'm a marketing person, so I'm all about education and awareness. So even if you're not interested, but you're curious, poke around. I'm open, and you can see some of my media clips also from back in the fall and last year when I did the Dolittle kind of media tour. Yeah, it was really fun. Scary, but fun.
No, I hear you. I know. It's just, it's inspiring. And, wouldn't it be cool if one day maybe we were even obsolete, because every animal and human pair were just simply able to communicate. They were so natural. It was like, and maybe we were there for, these special transitional times, bringing a new animal in, helping ease an animal's transition, coping with our grief. But there are these conversations that are taking place in our interspecies family, so naturally that it just becomes a part of our consciousness that we can no longer forget about, and gets passed on and on and on. And, as cool as the idea is of going to Mars, I think we've got a pretty workable planet right here. And I'd love I'm just inspired to know you. I'm still, obviously rather new in my journey, and very, very keen to to help the ones that I love the most with feathers.
But what's new, right? Like, I think in this lifetime, it feels new, but Shannon, you've had other lifetimes where you've been doing it. Actually, that was one of my big aha moments when I was told like, oh, you've been doing this for multiple lifetimes. So, which was why I described it as getting on a bike. So somebody's like, oh, because I've been at this for about 2.5, 3 years, and that seems new. But man, when you throw yourself into it, when you devote yourself to it, you're just trying to catch up with yourself all the time. And it's good actually not to think about too much, because then you freak yourself out a little bit. Cause you're like, oh, like that's too soon. Like even me teaching workshops or facilitating workshops, because I wasn't a teacher. I'm not a teacher. But yeah, I was literally like, what? I'm doing this? But people were coming to me and they're like, Meg, knock, knock, knock. Hey, how about like, we're all in lockdown. How about you do some workshops? And that was March of last year. And I'm like, holy cow, like turn around. Like I did that. So yeah, it's good to keep going.
Well, I'm so inspired, and thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah, I know you've been communicating the entire time, haven't you? Haven't you? Yeah. No, this is the life that we love. And the other thing I want to say is, if you're listening to this or you're watching this today and you're thinking about maybe signing up for one of Meg's workshops, I have to say, if you've ever had that thought in your life where you think, I don't know where my people are, I don't know where my tribe is, I just feel like they never quite fit anywhere, and I keep trying, and I turned 50 this year, so I'm totally going to date myself, but 5 great decades, and it took that long for me to find my people, and these are my people, and it was worth every single day of the time it took, because it feels so good when you have people. It feels so good to just have these conversations and to be able to say them out loud, not just have them with yourself in your head because you're afraid that nobody else is going to get you. When there's a whole world of us out there, we get you. We and
so much love.
Where who you are is absolutely perfect, and it has helped me get me so much more deeply, and maybe even more important, accept me so much more deeply, and it's the people that are in these communities are amazing and inspiring, and I hope that if you're listening or you're watching, that you will give yourself this gift and believe that you too can talk to animals, because you truly can. Meg, thank you so much. I know you've got a busy schedule. Definitely go and follow, by the way, go and follow modern_day_do little on Instagram, because you do, Meg, you do lives. You even go on live and you read animals. I have never been able to catch you live yet. I have caught the live playbacks, and it's really neat. And so you're just tapping in the moment, and what a great way to kind of get your feet wet and just see what it's all about. And absolutely no commitment, but just enjoyment and joy. And being there live and in person or virtual person to watch humans and animals grow closer and help animals get the message. And if you're thinking about it, this is something else I really love that I learned from my teacher Danielle, is that animals animals will prompt their people. So if you've been thinking about it, you're interested, but there's this mental part of you that's like, or what will people think? Don't worry about it. You don't have to tell anybody if you don't want to. Maybe you'll get so excited once you've had your first experience that you'll want to tell everybody, like me. But if your animal has something they want to say to you, you may start thinking about learning a little bit more about animal communication, and you're not even realizing where it's coming from. Animals are very smart, and they know us. They know their people very well. So trust your gut. Trust your gut. Give yourself the gift. Hopefully this has been a time when you felt a little more connected with yourself, a little more connected with your animal, a little more excited about some of the things in life that you haven't experienced yet that you might like to. Maybe it's even made it somewhere onto your bucket list. and we'd love to help you check this particular item off your bucket list. So moderndaydolittle.com, 1-0. Remember that, that's very important. And be sure to tune in with us. I'm not exactly sure what the frequency will be with these, but if you follow our organization, Pearl's organization. Pearl's organization. I just work there.
You do have a micromanager on your hands, so
I do.
You might feel like Pearl's
All
assistant.
We are over at animallovelanguages.com, and we would love to meet you. Really, really love it. So thank you again, Meg. Have a beautiful afternoon, all of you who are watching and listening, and we look forward to meeting you again in your very soon, and hopefully in your first actual animal communication. Post your comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe wherever you're finding this. I will post all of Meg's information. Yes, Pearl is emphasizing that. By her and us, and we send you our love and our deep respect and gratitude for your love for animals. Okay, have a great day. Bye for now.